Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Papa Boris here, playing some more Krumit's Tale. Dream Quest. Krumit's Tale, Meteor Fall. This is a fantastic deck building roguelike. I just did a video on how to play the game, but let's see what it's actually like to, really play the game strategically and not just explaining all the rules. So let's go ahead and start over. Again, I will pick Bruno. So Bruno is a very good character. He's the first one who starts off unlocked. His ability, Sturdy, gives him 2 health whenever he acquires an item from the dungeon that grants block. So it makes him, well, as the stamp suggests, sturdy. Now, his starting deck of tiles is pretty garbage, but thanks in large part to this ability, he can go through the early levels without using up almost any tiles. So he's going to get a lot of gems, and so that allows him to compensate at least somewhat for the crappy starting card tiles in his deck, because he has more gems so he can buy more stuff and replace more of the trash that starts off in his deck. Bruno's a great character to play if you're learning the ropes of this game because he's pretty bread and butter. You want to block attacks so that you parry the enemy, stunning them, and then beat on them, and if you need to do more damage, he's obviously got weapons as a fighter. He does have, a fair amount of abilities, which are helpful as well, but just going for a bread and butter armor and weapon approach works fine. As far as I can tell, there are 3 different things you can get in the first level. There's a level full of skeletons, there's a level full of the Blitz guys that we saw, and then there's this farmstead. But what they all have in common is that if you fight the enemy bare naked, you will take 3 damage. So this peasant is going to deal 1 damage, which is unblockable, then 2, then 1, then 2. Now if I just fight her, she'll do 1 to me. By the way, I'm going to press the Enter key for attacking so I don't have to use the mouse because that gets tiresome. Then I attack her for 2 and she attacks me for 2. And then because your character has first strikes, I attack her for 2 and she dies before she can do 1. And as we said at the end of the rules video, you gain 5 gems, which are the currency used between missions to purchase new tiles, for each unused tile in the dungeon at the end of the run. And that is very important. I like it a lot. It's like a way to modulate the difficulty of the game. Because when you first start learning the ropes, it's like, yeah, let me just kill all the stuff and, do whatever. Let me just, oh, yeah, sure, I'll take this treasure chest and gain 2 gold. Why not? Like, you just sort of play the sort of default way just to clear the dungeon. And then as you get better, you're like, oh, but what if I can leave fewer tiles used so I have more gems, and then you can improve your play and add that extra level of nuance to it. Now this level happens to have 2 different enemies instead of just having the peasants. It also has these town guards. As long as one of these is on the board, you can't equip melee weapons. So you can buy them, you can have them in your inventory, you just can't activate them in combat. She has 2 health and 4 armor, which if you have ways of getting past armor means really only 2 health, but starting out I do not. And her attacks are just always 2 damage. So if I were to fight her, I'd actually die right now, because I would hit her for 2, she'd hit me for 2, I'd hit her for 2, she'd hit me for 2 and kill me. So what we're going to do is grab some chainmail. This costs 2 gold, which I have from killing 2 peasants, and it heals me for 2 thanks to my starting stamp of healing for 2 whenever I acquire a block card. So now I'm going to fight this town guard, but I'm going to use chainmail. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take 0 damage just from 1 use of chainmail, because this 2 damage attack will be blocked, and it'll be blocked fully, so I parry her, stunning her. That means she's not doing this 2 damage. Now we come back around to this 2 damage, but I have first strike, so I will kill her before that 2 damage ever happens. So I took 0 damage from that fight. And now I know that I can fight one of these peasants taking only 3 total damage, so I'll just do that. I'll fight one without using my chainmail and take 3 damage. And if I were to do that again, I would either die or I would have to use this chainmail to avoid taking damage. But I don't want to use this chainmail because I don't want to use up the tile. So what I'm going to do is buy this other chainmail, which will heal me for 2. Now I'm going to fight this peasant and use this chainmail. Because remember, it doesn't actually matter if the item has full durability or 1 durability or anywhere in between. As long as it's an unused tile, if it's a tile that is sitting in your inventory or on the board or in the deck, it grants you 5 gems at the end of the dungeon. So I'm going to hit her for 2, I'm going to parry the second attack of hers, and stun her, and now she'll die. Now she did do this 1 damage to me up front, but that's just 1 damage. So at this point, I can just kill this other peasant. I could also, like if I were in rough shape or worse shape, I could buy this bucket to gain 2 health. And I can also buy this health vial for 0 gold. it has 2 uses, and I could just use it 1 time to gain 2 health as well. So I had some leeway here. The other thing you could do, by the way, is if you bought one of these short swords, you could use it twice and kill her in 2 hits. So she only did the upfront 1 damage. So there's a lot of leeway here when you fight this particular dungeon to get through all the enemies without actually depleting any of the tiles that you have. And the other 2 dungeons that you can have as your first dungeon are the same way. You can get through them all consistently without having to use any of your tiles, because your deck is so small and the enemies are so predictable that, you know, if you don't get the chainmail, you can get the bucket. If you don't get that, you can get the health potion. If you don't get that, you can get the swords, and eventually you'll get some combination of things that let you get through it without having to use up any tiles. So we actually get a whopping 50 unused tile bonus for not using up any of our starting tiles, plus of course the default 10 for clearing a dungeon. Okay, let's take our first treasure here. This is a really good potion. A lot of the times you want this because it can be used 3 times. It reduces the cost of abilities by 1. There are some synergies I'm not going to get into that can happen later in the game where this is a really important part of it. However, right now my abilities suck. Bruno's starting abilities, in my opinion, are pretty much trash, and I'm going to be getting rid of them as soon as I possibly can. So I don't want this. This is an interesting one. It makes it so that all the damage, all the weapons that are on the board have their base damage increased by 2. This will be good once I get some weapons, but the thing is, I really hate these swords. These swords are really, really bad. 2 gold for 1 damage is just abysmal. So I am not going to pick this up right now because I'd like to use it later on actually good weapons. This thing, however, is just ridiculous. It's 2 gold for a block 8 that can be used 3 times. Just for reference, chainmail costs 2 gold for 2 block that can be used twice. Now this thing does have a drawback, which is that against attacks that do 3, 2, or 1 damage, it has no block value. So this only blocks against hard-hitting attacks. And there are a lot of enemies that attack for 3, which is kind of annoying. However, being able to block an attack 8 is pretty phenomenal. So that's a card I'm always happy to see. And remember, it also interfaces with your stamp, Sturdy, that restores 2 health whenever you acquire an item that grants block. Now we're choosing our first stamp. So here we have a pretty crappy selection, unfortunately. So there's at least 4 block gain Thorns. Thorns, it basically deals damage to the enemy whenever they attack you. Intelligent increases your deck size by 3, which can be good if you get a lot of gems and if you get a lot of good stuff at the store. Unfortunately, I can't see what's in the store, so I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to take advantage of this. And the value in Bruno's case is lessened by the fact that a lot of his cards starting off are things that he wants to get rid of anyways. The Hornet makes it so that you inflict poison whenever you attack with a weapon, and you deal bonus damage versus poison enemies. That's kind of nifty. There's another stamp in this game, Radioactive, that makes all enemies spawn with poison, and the way that poison works, it's weird. It's like different for enemies than it is for you. For enemies, at the end of the turn, or at the end of the combat round, I should say, they take damage equal to their poison value, and then their poison value reduces by 1. So this is by itself not that great. And then Ghostly gives you stealth if you have 2 or less health after you attack or take damage. And stealth makes it so that your next attack has blitz, and it goes before the enemy, even if the enemy's attack is blitz, and it deals +2 damage or +3 bonus damage if you have a weapon, but that's a pretty serious restriction there, having 2 or less health. So none of this stuff is all that exciting. I'm going to grab Intelligent. I've actually never taken it before, and we'll see if we can actually fill up our stuff from the shop enough with these bonus gems we have. Okay, so there is some good stuff here. This is a very strong thing. It can kill an enemy outright that has been damaged. So if you can just walk into combat, damage it, and flee, you can then kill it with Execute. And I haven't talked about fleeing, but that is something that we'll perhaps see later on. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. There are also things you can buy that are not in the store right now, but that can actually damage enemies, but without actually having to go into combat. This is a very strong ability. It deals damage to an enemy equal to your current health, and it also stuns them, canceling their current attack and their next attack if your health is full. Now this is exhausted, unused, but that's a lot of damage. So it gives you some pretty nice staying power. We're going to grab that. And at this point, we have room for, what, 2 more cards thanks to the Intelligent perk. We cannot actually buy anything here because we only have 20 gems and these cost 25. But I am actually willing to make an upgrade. So I will get rid of one of these janky-ass short swords. And we're going to replace it with Octo's Arm. This is a 5 damage weapon that can be used 3 times. And its damage increases by 1 for every round that passes in battle. Now, 4 gold is a lot. That is not a joke. It's a very large amount of gold you have to acquire, but it is a very strong thing. So sadly, we have not been able to fully use up our intelligent perk, but hopefully we will be able to in future levels. Now, this is actually not the worst second dungeon we can have. Neither of these guys have any special abilities. This is a very basic enemy. It just deals, like the peasant ladies, it just deals 3 damage if you fight it buck naked. And then these guys do 4 damage per attack, which is a lot, but they also self-damage by 2 on every single attack. And I do have ways, thanks to that Lionheart shield, to block those attacks. So I'm expecting to not have to use up that many tiles in this dungeon. In fact, I'd like to not use up any if I possibly can. Okay, so a little bit of bad luck starting off here. We don't have more than 1 skeleton. I was hoping for a lot of skeletons so that I could, you know, beat up on them and get a bunch of gold. Well, let's beat up on this one, taking 3 damage in the process. And now we're in a bit of a tricky situation. So I'd like to buy this, because with this Lion Guard, I could kill these cultists. However, I have no way of getting the gold I need to buy this Lion Guard without pitching an item, which is a shame because I would like to have not used up any of my items, but that's fine. So I'm going to just be a little bit greedy. I'm going to pitch Slam because I don't want to use this at all anyways. So we're going to go ahead and just get rid of it for 1 gold and 2 health, and I will buy this Lion Guard. I could have, I guess, been more unlucky and not had this Lion Guard available either, but I could have been more lucky and had more skeletons up front. So now let's go ahead and fight a cultist. Notice, by the way, I'm not really like choosy about which ones I fight. Other characters might care more about which of these you fight and like where the things come in. Like you can see what's coming in. So if I kill this one, the skeleton will come in here and these 2 will shift down. But right now, one nice thing about Bruno, especially if you're learning the game, a lot of the positioning really just doesn't make any difference. So we'll just fight some random cultists. So now I'm going to block it. So he's going to deal 4 damage to me, but it's going to all get blocked. I'll deal 2 damage to him and he'll deal 2 damage to himself. He will be parried. So his next attack action is totally canceled. Now he's set to do 4 damage to me again, but I have first strike, so I will kill him before that happens. So for a single tick of durability on this shield, I get to kill that guy completely. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and fight the skeleton bare naked and just take 3 damage for the privilege. This is just to get a gold, and it's also to take damage, because that way, if I'm damaged and I buy armor, my starting stamp of healing me for 2 whenever I acquire a blocking item is not wasted. Okay, now let's fight a cultist and do the same thing we did before. Attack. He self-damages and gets stunned. And then before he can do 4 damage to me, I kill him just enough. Now, at this point, I could do this again with the Lion Guard. However, if I do that, I'm going to use up the Lion Guard, which would be a shame. So how else can I take this? Well, I could buy this short sword, and then I will deal 6 damage to him in my first 2 attacks if I use up 2 durability of this short sword, and he'll deal 4 to me, but then I will kill him before he can do 4 to me again and kill me. That's one option. Another option is if I got both of these chainmails, I could block his first attack entirely, but I'm a gold shy of that, and I don't have any way of getting a gold because sadly there aren't any skeletons here. I could pitch another item, but I don't want to do that if I don't have to. I could drink the 1 tick of this health vial to go up to 9, and then I can actually just take 2 hits from the cultists, going down to 1 health. Let's do that. This is a little bit frisky, but if we drink this and go to 9, now I can fight this guy buck naked. He's going to self-damage himself for 2, and then he's going to self-damage himself for 2 again. So he dealt 8 damage to me, 4 damage to himself, and that was enough for him to die. So I'm a rather scary-looking 1 health, but at this point, I can buy both of these chainmails, healing up to 5. I can fight this guy and use both chainmails to achieve the parry. And kill him, just like we did with the Lion's Guard. Now, sadly, I'm gonna have to use up one of these items. Because these skeletons each do 3 damage to me if I fight them buck naked. I have no more room in my inventory, unfortunately, to take up anything else. So I am going to have to use up one of these items to be able to kill both skeletons without dying. But even though I used up a couple of tiles this run, I still am going to get a lot of bonus gems. Oops, I forgot to use my chainmail. That's okay, I'm still going to make it. I did not want to use my chainmail. I didn't forget to. I didn't want to. That would have been a waste of 5 gems. I'm still going to get a lot of bonus gems because my deck size was bigger and I had more gems going into it. I actually got 1 more bonus than I did last time. Okay, let's take our reward here. So there's some really, really good stuff here. The golden chest is obviously great. 3 gold is good, especially if you picked up some expensive stuff like Octo's Arm. However, I'm going to take one of my favorite items of all time, the crowbar. This removes all the armor on a target enemy, and it adds a 1 durability plate armor. Plate armor is a 4-block item to your inventory. So remember that means that you get 2 health when you do that, and you destroy an enemy's armor, and you get a 4-block item. It's really, really strong. 3 gold is a lot, but this is very worth it, especially because you can use it 3 times. This is strong too, but it's expensive, and I don't think it's as good as the crowbar. There is going to be armor eventually at some point somewhere, so it's useful to have it. Okay, so here we have mostly bad stamps. The Jester is important in some strategies. It randomizes the cost of every visible tile from 0 to 5, and in the net, it's a good thing, although of course there's going to be high variance. Privileged, 8 gold is a lot, but having your base attack reduced to 1 is a major problem unless you have another stamp to make up for it. Sneaky is interesting, but a lot of times +1 damage does not matter. You saw in a lot of these fights I was taking the enemies exactly down to 0. It's not a coincidence that happens because all the enemies have an even number of hit points and your attack does 2 damage. So if you do 3 once and then 2 for the rest of the time, you're either going to land the enemy at 1 or at -1. In both cases, this didn't actually make a difference. Stout, though, is just amazing. Having 6 bonus maximum health, totally fine. So we're going to grab that. Here, no armor. We're fighting our first boss. This guy makes it so that the gobloids, basically the other enemies, have 1 attack extra, which is really, really strong. But the first boss that you fight, whichever level it is, there's a few different ones, also has like a beneficial aspect. And the beneficial aspect of him is that there are 3 tranquilizers in the deck. This is a 3 gold item that 3 times can completely cancel an enemy's attack. And that's very strong. Even if you don't have the 3 gold to use them, you can just pitch them for a gold and 2 health. So this is a nice beneficiary thing. And if you don't use them, you get 5 bonus gems at the end. Okay, let's see what we can buy here with 65 gems. Well, there's another crowbar here, so if I had known that, I would have maybe not taken the other one. I don't want more than 1 crowbar. I think 1 is good enough. This is a weird thing. It's a very hard-hitting item. Obviously, 16 gold is insane. This is a good synergy with the Jester stamp. So if I could have seen the shop, which I couldn't, when choosing a stamp, I actually might have chosen Jester because this was here. Because if you can randomize its cost to be from 0 to 5, and then its cost is reduced by 2 when you defeat an enemy, that could be very strong. But as it is, I don't want to go for it. However, the crossbow is nice. It's 2 piercing damage for 2 gold 3 times, and you can use it like in the dungeon window. You cannot target enemies that are in the bottom row, and then some enemies have stealth and just cannot be targeted outside of combat in general, but it's pretty good. This is a little bit situational. You have to be equipping 2 weapons. Oh, no, sorry, this is the wrong thing. It's acquired token. Oh, 2 or less and add an additional copy. Getting additional copies of stuff is really good, but at the moment, it's pretty much just the crossbow that I would want to copy. So that would have to show up with the crossbow. These swords are just garbage. I don't really care about copying those, and the Octo Arm does not cost 2, it costs 4. So I don't want to take this dual wield. This is a tricky one. It basically can be used once per battle to add X damage, where X is 2 times the number of rounds that have gone by. So if you have a longer, protracted fight, it can be good, but 3 gold is a lot to pay, and a lot of times it doesn't end up being worth it. And then this is you deal damage equal to your block to the enemy, but the durability of equipped items is reduced by 1. So, unfortunately, like I wish I had taken the treasure chest from the treasure and then bought the crowbar here, but alas, you cannot see what is going to be available. I mean, we could take the axe. There are more and more enemies with every dungeon, so it becomes easier and easier to actually get this down to a reasonable cost. The problem, of course, is if this happens to be rolled near the bottom of your dungeon deck, you really just can never buy it, because by the time it shows up, most of the enemies have been killed. It's a tough call here. I guess we'll take this axe, but it could be a mistake, and maybe the better thing to do would have been to just buy this Retaliate, which I still could, and I still have room for a card. You know what, let's do it. Let's buy this Retaliate as well. Worst case scenario, I pitch him for a gold and 2 health, and I'm still happy to pitch the short sword, this short sword, the 2 slashes, and this stupid-ass bucket helm. So it's like, still 5 cards in there I'm happy to pitch if I end up getting good stuff later on. Okay, so we're level 3 now. We're dungeon 3, I should say. Okay. So, let's take a look at what's going on. These guys are very annoying. What they do is they add a copy of this tile to your inventory called Stupid that makes abilities cost 1 extra, and it costs 2 health to get that out of your inventory. And if your inventory is full when you acquire it, you have to replace one of your tiles with it. So you have to make sure that you don't have a full inventory when you finish killing one of these guys. And of course, you cannot replace the stupid tiles themselves. So there's a couple things I could do here. I mean, it's an interesting one. I could get this chest. In the 3rd dungeon is when you have to start worrying a little bit less about using unused tiles or leaving unused tiles from bonus gems and just worry about beating the level. That's 2 gold. And I can just buy this Lion Guard. Now, what would happen with the Lion Guard is I could block this, do 2 damage. He's stunned. I could do 2 more damage. And then he's at 4, and he's going to put up a block, which is very annoying, which means I will not kill him in 2 hits. So I need a little bit more help than just blocking 1 attack, unfortunately. I could get this and execute this thing. I could get this and do some retaliation. Do I need to pitch something first? Yeah, let's do this execute. So we're going to do this. I'm going to whack him and take 4 damage. And hey, that's what my bonus max melt is for. And then let's just go ahead and kill it because he's been damaged. So I got this stupid thing. I'm just going to pop it right now. There's no need to keep that in there. And now, if I bought this, 2 plus 5 is 7. I'd be 1 damage shy of killing it outright. And I have a lot of gold left to go before I can actually like buy this and save one of these weapons to finish this thing off completely. With the short sword and the slash, I do 6 damage also. It just feels bad to use a permanent loss and still end up taking 4 damage from this bucket head. Let's buy this Lion Guard, heal for 2, and see what's coming up next. So what's coming up next is these guys, which do 3, which my lion thing doesn't block. Although this actually ends up being buffed to 4, doesn't it, by the special ability of the dungeon. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pitch this stupid slash thing to get a gold and to heal 1, but mainly what I'm concerned about is actually getting this guy to show up. So now I'm going to fight him. Because of the boss, his ability is upgraded from 3 to 4, which means this thing actually blocks it. So I parry the attack and then I kill him. Alright, there's the boss. Now, sometimes you want to just save the boss for last. Sometimes you want to go ahead and kill the boss. By default, it's not a bad idea to wait until the end to kill the boss, so you hopefully have acquired some, you know, good stuff. Let's think about killing this bucket head here. I would take... I would deal 2, he'd go to 6. I would hit him again, he'd go to 4. I could flee and take 2 damage upon fleeing. And then the block would be cancelled. And then I could come back and then do it again, which would use up the rest of this item. I think I'm okay with that. Let's actually just finish using up this Lion Guard to kill this guy. So here's a little bit of tactical nuance. So he's parried and thus stunned, so I hit him. And now, if I were just to attack him again, he'd gain a block. So he's essentially at 5 health right now. So if I hit him now and then I hit him again, he's going to be at 1 and not die. What I'm going to do, though, is flee. If you flee, the enemy attacks you, and then you get away. But the block goes away. So what I'm going to do now is block this 4, so I don't take 4 damage. It is possible I could have taken 4 damage there, but this is the 3rd level. Things are starting to get a little bit harder. I don't want to screw around too much. I want to make sure I can kill this boss, and I don't want to like put myself in a position where I just die because I was overly greedy. Let's get this stupid thing out of here. And think. So these guys hit for 4 with Blitz. If I had 2 chainmails, I could block that. I could pick up this Tranquilizer and start using the Tranquilizer. And then I would just kill him in 2 hits for 1 durability of this Tranquilizer. This means it's going to be harder for me to get this Retaliate. But I probably don't need the Retaliate. If I kill enough of these 6 enemies that are in the deck, I could pick up this Axe, which I was lucky and came out early, and then I could use this Axe to Myrtlate the Goblord. I mean, 2 plus 6 is 8. I'd basically kill this thing in 2 hits. Basically. I'd need a third hit or like 2 extra damage from somewhere. Yeah, let's get the Tranquilizer. So I'm going to fight this guy, and I'm going to cancel his attack using one of the 3 durabilities. These Tranquilizers are in here because of the beneficial effect of the boss. The boss of this level causes 3 Tranquilizers to be added to the dungeon deck. Okay, so now I have to think. If I use Slash, that would actually let me kill the Goblord with 2 hits of my axe, which is what this thing is called, my axe. What about Octo's Arm? 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. Plus 3 is 17. Not quite enough, so it does need to be my axe. Or like Octo's Arm and Retaliate. If I buy this, I'm down to 0 gold. If I pitch something, this thing comes up and I can just pick it up and drink it and see what the next thing is. Okay, I'm gonna pitch this crowbar because there's none of the enemies in this level have armor. I'll pick up this health potion for free. And this is nice, because now there's this Gobloid again. So what I'm going to do is the same thing I did before. We're going to tranquilize that to prevent myself from taking 4 damage. I could probably be a little bit greedier and take more total damage. But in the 3rd dungeon, I start worrying just a little bit less about, you know, having unused tiles. Okay, so the next thing is this guy, which is very annoying. 2 plus 5 is 7, which is not enough to kill him. But 2 plus 6 does one-shot him. However, I would need to get 3 more gold, and I don't really want to pitch 3 things. I could block this one with Chainmail. Okay, we're going to do it that way. I'm going to buy the Chainmail, which heals me for 2 thanks to my starting stamp, and I'm going to fight this Buckethead. So the way it works is I'm going to take 4 damage. Now, this is where we get to see the application of something I talked about in the rules video. This Chainmail will block this entire attack. This 2 will be blocked by my block, and this 2 will as well. So 2 2s is different from 1 4. The 1 4 would have gotten 2 damage through my block, and he wouldn't have been stunned. But with 2 separate 2s, I fully block his attack, and he is stunned. Which means not only that he's not going to deal more damage to me, but also that this round where he does the block is countered. And I kill him before this 4 damage comes up again. So for just 1 use of Chainmail and taking 4 damage, I can kill that guy without having to take any damage at all. Oh, well, I take 4 damage, and I use 1 tick of Chainmail, but that's it to kill one of those guys. Okay, let's get this stupid out of my inventory, and think. The next thing, sadly, isn't an enemy. If the crossbow is good, I could pop this guy full of bolts and get pretty close to killing him. But the problem is, I really would have to throw something out of here to do that. Yeah, I think I'll just have to. I mean, I could buy this Chainmail, but the problem is that this guy, Chainmail is not really good enough. And I need to save up some money to get these weapons. This will go down to 0 if I kill 2 more enemies, but I have 7 positive tiles and only 3 enemies left in the dungeon deck, so I can't guarantee that I'm going to get there. So let's get rid of Slash. I need to make sure I have enough gold to get what I need. Okay, so I think I will buy this Chainmail. And we're gonna fight this Buckethead. So what I'm gonna do is just use up this last Tranquilizer to save myself 4 damage. And it's gonna otherwise be the exact same thing as before, only I didn't take that 4 damage for the low price of using the last tick of my Tranquilizer. And the reason for that is that I just wanted to get it out of my inventory because I'm gonna need some more inventory space because this stupid thing is coming in and I was gonna lose something anyways. Let's go ahead and pay 2 health to get rid of that. Now, if I kill this Gobloid, the axe will become free. I could take 4 damage for the trouble. And what's this guy's first attack? 6. That's kind of annoying, unfortunately, because if I take 4 damage from this Gobloid, and then 6 from him, I will die exactly. I could, of course, use up both my chainmails to just block this Gobloid's attack. I could buy the crossbow and shoot this thing twice, but then I'd have to use up something at some point to actually make room for my axe. Yeah, I don't think I can, without at least doing some major shenanigans, I Actually, I could use 1 tick of this health vial. Okay, let's be a little bit shenaniganous. Let's take 4 damage from this guy to kill him. And now I can take 1 hit from the Goblord. So what I'm gonna do is pick up my axe, and we're gonna do this the hard way. We're gonna just whack this guy twice. Oh, hang on a second, he's not dead after 2 whacks! Ha ha! Oh, he is. Well, no, because he's gonna deal 4 damage to me. That would definitely kill me. Yeah, 6 plus 4 is 10. So I'd have to use up these chainmails or this health vial. This health vial actually wouldn't be enough. It'd have to be both chainmails. Okay, so let's not do that just yet. Okay, we will drink this health vial and grab this crossbow. So the crossbow, I'll shoot this thing once. At 16 health, I can kill him in 2 hits, and I'll take 6 damage, but I will kill him before he kills me. Okay, now, with that boss dead, does this guy still get the +1 attack bonus? He does, which is a shame, because if he didn't get that bonus, I could just go down to 1 hit point and kill him. As it is, there's no way for me to avoid using up an additional item, sadly, because I can't fit anything more in my inventory. The crossbow will kill him, but it will be used up in the process, and shooting him just once doesn't actually do me any good. Well, so I guess I might as well just shoot him twice. And that still actually left a decent amount of unused tiles in the dungeon. Yeah, same as last time. I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, it's time for our reward. So we can get another execute. I don't think I want more than 1 of these. This is just a pretty basic bitch weapon. It's better than my starting swords, but it's nothing super exciting. And this, I don't know what it is. Increase your damage by 3. Take damage twice to recharge. That's interesting. It's pretty expensive. And these things that stay in your inventory, like, inventory space is kind of a big deal. So I'm skeptical of this just because it is expensive, stays in my inventory, and I don't have that many ways of getting gold at the moment. You know what? Maybe I will take another execute. It goes well with the blocking strategy where you block, hit it for 2, and then just finish it off. It also goes well with my crossbow. Okay, we got some good stuff here. Holy crap, these are all really great. So Chill's one of my favorite stamps in the whole game. The first time you take damage in battle, your opponent is frozen, and frozen means their next attack does 0 damage. If they don't attack, the freeze effect is removed after 1 round in battle. But it is... So there's a bit of a non-bow here with blocking in this, because if you block and stun them, then the freeze will go away. But it's still a very strong perk, and it helps you immensely at fighting things bare naked. Radioactive makes enemies poison when they spawn, and this works well with that other perk that we saw earlier, so sadly I didn't take it, which increases your damage by 1 versus poison enemies. This shuffles 3 flexes into the deck. These are the expensive things that cost 5 gold, but increase your base attack by 1. They, however, have a lot of synergy, so if you have ways to reduce the cost of abilities, if you have that Jester stamp that randomizes the cost of things from 0 to 5, that 5 gold cost can be brought down. And I would actually, like, if I took this and then I saw Jester again, I would take that. And this is actually nice as well. You get 2 block when you flee, which can be nice to prevent some damage. I'm just going to grab Chill. As things get harder and harder and harder, I more and more value things that let you fight enemies bare naked, and Chill really does a good job with that. Okay, what's in the shop here? So we have that flex card, which is fine. This is a weird one. Lets you spend 3 health to gain 4 block. I haven't found a way to use this well. This thing is a bit weird. It's a 1/1 weapon, but your attack has blitz, but that really only matters against enemies that have blitz. This thing is a 4 gold weapon that deals 3 damage. It's actually not that good, but its damage is increased by 1 every time you use it, so it's 3, then 4, then 5, which is still not that good, but if you have ways to return durability, then it becomes good. This is a good way to get gold if you have lots of extra items, especially if you still have crap in your deck that you can just turn into 5 gold. That's pretty strong. But I think I'm going to grab this plate helm. It's just a 3 gold 6 block item that can be used 3 times, and the only negative to it is that you cannot use it and a weapon at the same time. That's usually not a very big deal. And besides that, I mean, this is tempting, but I think I'm just going to grab this Dragon's Gold. I still have a bunch of crap in my deck, and because I took that Intelligent perk, it's very difficult for me to replace stuff. I got to consider making a replacement here. I could put this in for something. I mean, if you're saving... If you manage to parry the enemy's attack with this, you can save a lot more than just 3 health with it. Okay, we'll do that. I'll buy that, use up my gems, and then we get to pitch some more chaff. Let's get rid of slash, because I was at my deck limit. I'm still at my deck limit. Okay, so I need to actually pitch one more thing. Let's go ahead and get rid of this other slash. I also want to get rid of these short swords and this bucket helm someday. We'll see what happens. So, how long has this video been? It's been 35 minutes. Let's take a pause here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll be back soon to continue this run. Take care.